Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Make sure to stick around to the end of this video to find out who won last week's giveaway for a Death Trooper Funko Pop from Collector Zone. Also, before we start questions, I need to give a quick thank you and shout out to fan Jeremy Staley who sent me this. This little mini X-Wing. It's not just any X-Wing though, there's little bigs in there. I actually had this when I was a kid. I have it still somewhere, but last I saw it, like, it was all bent to hell, and the S foils had fallen off, the guns had fallen off. It's in bad shape, so this is very nice of you. Thank you. It's like nostalgia overload for me. Kicking off with Patreon, Daniel Charland has some questions about the Church of the Force and also how religious the Jedi were. Actually, I think, from what I'm understanding, that the Church of the Force and the Jedi Order were two separate entities. We've been seeing a lot in the new canon, a lot of ways that people just have relationships with the Force. And the Jedi Order is just one of those ways. Like we saw the Lasat in Star Wars Rebels. They kind of have their own special relationship with the Force. And I think the Church of the Force is another one of those ways. And in my understanding, I think it's made up of people like Lor San Tekka and Ciena Ree, and probably Chirrut, people who aren't Jedi, but are aware of the Force. They believe in a higher power. I guess Chirrut looks like he's going to be at least a little Force sensitive, and I honestly don't know if he is a part of the Church of the Force. I'm just assuming. But I just think that the Jedi Order, while I guess it is referred to as a religion, I don't think that they have any specific rituals that they pray beyond meditation. I think that what we've seen of them in the films is probably the extent of their religiousness. That doesn't sound right, but that's as far as it goes. And the Church of the Force probably has their own rituals and their own things that they do. But again, that's kind of yet to be revealed. We don't know a whole lot about the Church of the Force, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. Josh McIntyre asks what I think the Darth Maul is going to cover or reveal, since it's going to be one of the earliest pieces of the Star Wars canon, along with the Yoda comics that are about to come out. What I'm really hoping for is more history on the Sith. I mean, I know that we're going to go into Maul's training, so I would hope that some of that might involve history lessons from Palpatine. And, I mean, we could get some more information on Bane, since he is canon. Who knows? We could get a mention from Revan. And that alone would be mind-blowing, just to have his name canon again. I'm also hoping that we see Darth Plagueis, because in the Legends continuity, he's still alive at that point. I think that they're probably going to stick to that, and I hope that we get to see Plagueis at some point, which, if you're wondering how that works with the rule of two, Sidious and Plagueis never really intended for Maul to be Sidious's true apprentice. He was meant to be more of a tool and an assassin, and they just kind of strung him along. But if they continue following with that idea, then Plagueis would be alive at the time of that comic, and it would be cool to see him and maybe get like a confirmation of his canon species. And really, that's what I'm hoping for, is just more information on the Sith in general and not just Darth Maul. John Gregory Kars wants to know why ObiWan and Yoda are the only two Jedi that we've seen that disappeared when they died. I do actually think that them disappearing is them becoming one with the Force and becoming Force ghosts. But then you point out, like, okay, why didn't that happen to Darth Vader or Qui-Gon? Qui-Gon never completed his training, so I think Obi-Wan and Yoda are the only two that actually completed it fully. And then Anakin, there's still a question about why he is a Force ghost. Pablo Hidalgo has hinted that Obi-Wan and Yoda opened the door and then allowed Anakin to step through, whatever that means. So maybe that's a thing that just all Jedi do now. Like, they can all become Force ghosts innately because Yoda and Obi-Wan opened the door. That's such a vague statement. but it could explain why Vader's body did not disappear, because it wasn't something that he was, I guess, naturally meant to do, and that Obi-Wan and Yoda kind of like allowed his spirit to pass through after it had left his body. That's my best guess. It kind of sounds like I'm just pulling it out of my ass, but that's the best I can do. Noah Lopez wants to know why Uncle Owen didn't recognize C-3PO in Episode 4 when he owned him in Episode 2. Well, C-3PO's protocol droid model was a common one throughout the galaxy. It was a mass-produced model, which is why it's kind of annoying that Anakin built 3PO. Like, shouldn't he be more customized? Why did he build like an off-the-rack droid? But that's a conversation for another time. So Owen owned 3PO for a while. He gave him up. When 3PO came back, he was looking pretty different. His plating was the bright gold. When Owen owned him, it was like dirty and brown. So it's forgivable that he wouldn't just recognize 3PO visually. Why he didn't recognize his name is another thing altogether. Like, that I think he could have remembered, but it's been over 2 decades, sorry, and he hasn't seen 3PO in a long time. So maybe being cooked in the two suns of Tatooine for that long just fried his brain. But also, like, people don't really treat droids like friends. I would say that the examples that we've seen in Star Wars, that's not how most people view droids. Like, Anakin has like this great relationship with R2, so does Luke. Poe and BB-8, like, they treat their droids like family. I wouldn't say that that is something that happens throughout the galaxy. They're viewed as tools for the most part. So Owen, it's like he had a drill for a while, and then his stepbrother took the drill back, and then 20 years later he saw the drill again and was like, oh, same model, but like didn't recognize it was the same drill. So that's, again, kind of my own headcanon explanation. I wouldn't say it's official, but that's the best I can do. Mike Basir wants to know if I think Revan will ever come back into the canon. I do think he will. I think it's just a matter of time, really. He was almost brought into the canon in the Clone Wars. Like, they had him modeled and everything, and the scene got deleted. So he was like right on the cusp. And he's a fan favorite like Thrawn, so honestly, I just think it's a matter of time, a matter of when and how. But I think at the very least, someone will mention his name at some point. That's it for Patreon questions. As always, if you're a patron and you didn't have your question answered here, go to our weekly Q&A thread and I left you a written response. If you're not a patron and you're interested in learning more, there's a link in the description. It's only $1 a month, and the combined donations really go a long way in helping support the channel, and you get some extra little bonuses along the way. Moving on to YouTube questions, Redness asks if I think any Rogue One characters will pop up in future films. Films, I kinda doubt it. I've been pretty vocal on this channel that I think most of, if not all, of the characters in Rogue One are going to die. But there could still be content surrounding them that will come up in the future. Like, I think a 5-issue comic series about Baze and Chirrut would be really cool, or like a series about Cassian and his early days in the Rebellion, maybe how he met K2SO. So anything is possible, even films, but I just think the films are going to branch out more and keep exploring very different areas of Star Wars, at least I hope. I think the better approach would be to continue their stories, even if they're in prequel form, in books and comics, and let the films do new things. Speaking of those new things, Hugginator wants to know my opinion on if they were to do a live-action Clone Wars film, and I would be very down for that. Much like Rogue One, I'm excited that it's about normal soldiers. So they could do something like that for Clone Wars, and the idea that popped into my head is, like, what if a clone battalion loses their Jedi general, like, early on, and they're stuck on a planet and they all have to survive together. So it's just clones fighting separatists, or maybe it's like a really hostile planet and they all just have to survive. Like, something like that where it focuses on the clones. I think that could be really cool. And here's another idea. Ninja Gaming asks what I think of a film that focuses on the point of view of the Empire. Again, I think that could be very cool. I mean, the new canon has done a pretty good job of telling the Empire's side of things. We have gotten a much better look at how the Empire operates from Rebels or series like Servants of the Empire and Lost Stars, and it shows how people can rationalize following a government that will blow up an entire rebelling planet. So it would be very cool to see a story where Imperials are the protagonists, like they're the good guys, and maybe they're fighting like Saw Gerrera's terrorist type rebels, where they're actually doing bad stuff too, and the Imperials are trying to keep peace. Like, that would be a very interesting spin on Star Wars as we currently know it. Okay, I got one more film pitch. Tyshawn Anderson asks what I think about a Jedi Purge film, and I think that's another great idea. In episode 4, Obi-Wan talks about how Darth Vader hunted down the Jedi, and in Revenge of the Sith, we didn't get to see that at all. We know that there were Inquisitors, we know that Darth Vader did do some hunting, but let's actually see it. That could be awesome. And also Aftermath Life Debt mentioned like a last stand of the Jedi. I think that could be something that would be very cool to see on screen. But I mean, it could almost be a horror movie where like a group of Jedi band together and they're trying to survive, but Darth Vader's coming after them and he's picking them off one by one like freaking Jason in Friday the 13th. Like, if the anthology films want to try to like experiment with new genres, there's your horror movie right there. And the last question of the day, Mythic Raygun wants to know if it's possible that Emilia Clarke could play Dr. Aphra in the Han Solo Star Wars story. I really doubt it because they have interacted in the Vader Down comics, and it seemed like that was the first time they had ever met. I assumed that Emilia's character and Han are going to have scenes together, so for them to have scenes and then not know who each other are in the comics just wouldn't make sense. I think Dr. Aphra is going to kind of be her own thing, and I hope that Emilia is a brand new character. That's all the time for questions I have today. Next week, a little movie called Rogue One comes out, and Saturday, I'm going to do something a little different for the Q&A. It's going to be a live stream, so I'm still going to take 5 questions from Patreon, and I'm going to answer those first, but after that, we're just going to talk about Rogue One. So come hang out. I will make sure I let everyone know what time it's going to be. I mean, I normally post videos at 9 a.m. I think that's a little early for some people. I want to make sure West Coast gets a chance in there too, so it'll probably be somewhere around 11 a.m. Eastern time, but I'll make sure everyone knows. Just check Twitter, and it'll also show up when I schedule the video. Anyway, live stream next week. This is going to be a little different, but come hang out. It'll be fun. Before signing off, congratulations to Ashley Harrett, who won the Death Trooper Funko Pop, and thank you to Collector Zone for hosting the giveaway. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thank you for watching, and may the Force be with you.